I know spraying lacquer can be tricky. On Woodworking with Wes today, I'm going to show you how I do it. I'm going to go through all the steps and show you how I end up with a glass smooth finish every time. The first thing I want to do is introduce you to the product and the equipment that we're going to be using to apply our lacquer. The lacquer that I'm using, and it's lacquer that I've used for some time now, is from Sherwin-Williams. It's Sherwood lacquer. It comes in several different sheens and can be tinted for a color coat if you want it to be a lacquer finish on a color. The cup gun that I'm using is just one that I purchased from my big box store. In fact, it's very inexpensive. I don't do anything fancy to it. I don't work or anything like that to make it different than what it is. I put my connector in, and then it has several adjustments. You have spray adjustment and volume adjustment. The spray is for this fan. It's called a fan it shows how open your fan is when you spray. And then down here it has a little volume for air. Now you adjust how much air works for the best, and like I say, some of this is experience, practice. I have my compressor set at 100 pounds of PSI, 100 PSI. And then I adjust the amount of air that I want for my cup gun right here at the base of my handle. And that way I can control the amount of air that goes in and how much volume it goes through the sprayer. It works out really well. Let's talk about the lacquer a little bit here. Let's go ahead and open it up. Take a look. The lacquer needs to be stirred every time you use it. It has sediments in the bottom, and you need to stir it. Now don't shake it, stir it, because you don't want to get any bubbles into your lacquer before you start spraying. So you stir up all those sediments off the bottom until you have a nice smooth color. I use my lacquer straight out of the can. I don't thin it, but I do use a filter to pour into my cup gun so that it's always filtered and anything that might be in there is filtered out and makes it nice and clean in the gun. Next thing is to try to spray in a good, well-ventilated area, either a paint booth, outside works, and be sure to wear a mask. Something like this. I wanted to talk a little bit about the pattern that I use to spray. First off, I forgot to mention that I use pre-catalyzed lacquer. Catalyst is what makes the lacquer harden. And so by using a pre-catalyzed lacquer right from Sherwin-Williams, when I buy it, I come home, I can use it right out of the can, no mixing or anything like that. So I just wanted to mention that. Anyway, when I spray, I start and go around the edges first. I go all the way around the edges. And then, as I'm spraying from one side, if there's any profile that is going to be hard to hit, I spray that, then go around the other side, and I spray back and forth. I want to show you one thing you need to make sure you do, is as you're spraying, spray clear across your project that you're doing so that you don't stop in the middle. That makes it puddle. So make sure that your movement is nice and even, clear across your project, all the way through. Get all done. Once you get done with the front side of the door, or at least I do when I get done with the front side of the door, I flip it over. I spray the back side the exact same way. I go around the outside first and then spray the field back and forth. What that does by spraying the outside first, that gives me extra coats on the edge of the door where the most of the wear will be. All right, we'll get this sprayed up and then we'll come back, and then the next step is how we make it really smooth. After my lacquer is completely dry, and that is one of the nice things about using a cellulose lacquer, is that it dries much faster than a water-based lacquer. Once it's completely dry, then I go back and I sand with the grain. Now this is just a sanding sponge that I purchased from a paint store, my retail paint provider. It's labeled fine as the grit. It doesn't have like an indication of 120 or 220 or whatever. It's just labeled fine. It's a 3M sponge. Get down in the profiles, sand the profiles just a little bit with the corner of your sponge. Come back and finish off by going with the grain. Sand the edges, and then I always just kind of hit the corners a little bit to take off that edge on the corner. Same way, just like that. Okay, and then when you get to the front of the door, again, I start with the center of the panel and sand with the grain. It only takes a light sand. If you have sanded your door properly, and I sanded my door complete to 150 grit, and so I had a nice smooth sand before I ever started putting the finish on. This is just a clear lacquer finish that I'm using. Okay, this is the little detail profile that's on this door. It's just a little step profile, and then again with the grain, and then final out here along with the grain also. Then I just kind of make sure I got my edges good. Okay, and then always test it, make sure you're good and smooth like that. And then you always end up with a little powder. See the powder on my fingers? You can either blow that off or use a tack cloth to clean off that dust before you spray your next coat. As you sand, your sponge is going to get full of this lacquer dust. Take your blower and keep your sponge nice and clean so that it sands better. Just a little tip. I want to go over what I did on my final coat before we talk about the finish. You saw me spray back and forth this way, and then you saw me come right back and spray this way. Because lacquer has a build-up factor to it, if you do that, it's the same as putting on an additional coat, plus it makes sure that you're getting in all of the cracks and crevices and profiles that are in a door, and it just makes a much cleaner, smoother coat all the way through. I painted 3 coats on the back and 3 coats on the front the same way. Let me see if I can show you the finish. I wish you could feel it because it's just as smooth as glass, just like I talked about. And it's a nice, smooth finish with lacquer. That's the way I finished my cabinets for years, and it really comes out nice, and it's a very durable catalyzed lacquer finish. I hope you enjoyed this video. We've had many questions about how I do my lacquer finish. I hope I answered all your questions, and we'll see you next time on Woodworking with Wes.